debate usually involves some political theater, but Congress has routinely extended emergency unemployment benefits since the depths of the Great Recession in 2008. But an improving economy, at least on paper, has some questioning whether it's time to stop. Flanked by a group of unemployed workers, President Obama pushed Congress yesterday to once again extend the emergency jobless benefits.
This is not an abstraction. These are not statistics. These are your neighbors, your friends, your family members. It could at some point be any of us.
The last extension of long-term unemployment insurance expired on New Year's Day, reducing or eliminating benefits for more than 1 million people, including 60,000 here in Massachusetts.
On this vote, the yeas are 60, the nays are 37.
A handful of Senate Republicans joined Democrats in passing a 3-month extension. But today, House Republicans are insisting that the cost of the extension, $6.4 billion, be offset with cuts elsewhere.
I've made clear that we would consider extending emergency unemployment benefits if it was paid for, and if there were provisions that we could agree to that would get our economy moving again and put the American people back to work.
If Congress can't agree on an extension, only a quarter of unemployed Americans will continue receiving jobless benefits, the smallest percentage in almost 50 years. So how much of this debate is about economic and social policy, and how much comes down to business as usual in Washington? Let's start the conversation with Jeffrey Myron. He's an economist at Harvard University and a senior fellow at the Cato Institute. Welcome to Greater Boston.
Thank you for having me.
So, Jeffrey, one of the arguments that some people make is that extended long-term benefits discourages people from looking for jobs. Do you think that's true?
I think there's certainly some truth to that. It's certainly not the only factor why some people have been long-term unemployed, but there's certainly evidence that many people tend to exit unemployment as their unemployment benefits expire. And it's standard common sense. If you're getting some subsidy, you're not under strong pressure to take a new job, you can search longer, you can stay unemployed longer.
Is there any evidence that this policy, as some suggest, actually hurts the economy?
Well, there are sort of controversial views about whether it hurts or it helps. It certainly helps in the short term the people who are receiving the benefits. The standard Keynesian model says it helps stimulate the economy because those unemployed people then go out and spend their benefits, and that then creates demand for other products. I think the evidence on that is fairly weak. So overall, it's mainly a question of we're transferring from some people and giving it to other people.
Now, I'm going to bring another voice into this. Jeff Hall is the resident economist for Thomson Reuters and the author of the Macro Research Roundup newsletter. Can the country afford to extend unemployment without cutting elsewhere? That's the question. Can they do that?
I believe they can. I think the economy is doing much better in terms of employment, in terms of overall economic activity, and the need for these emergency jobless benefits may be overtaken by events. We've got the unemployment rate down at a national level, down to 7%. Long-term unemployed have fallen from over 4.7 million in November 2012 to 4.1 million in 2013. So we're making good progress. We've looked at empirically. I know the president has talked about this is more of a social issue than a statistics issue, but the statistics are beneficial for the long-term unemployed. So we think that the situation is going to improve vastly in 2014, and it may not require the full package.
You know, one of the arguments people are making against this is that a lot of the jobs that people have lost, well, over the last decade at any rate, are never coming back. Right. They're just kind of jobs that have disappeared. This happens. It's cyclical. And we're paying for people to... They're looking for jobs that no longer exist. So is there a way to switch this around to employment training as opposed to just benefits?
Well, I think it's certainly right that a lot of the people who are long-term unemployed, the skills that they have are no longer a good match for the jobs that are available, at least not the high-paying jobs that are available. And so they need retraining or to accept lower-paying jobs consistent with their skills. That's hard for those people to accept. Retraining might make sense for some of them. But for some people, it's going to be very hard to get back in the labor force because, as you suggest, the economy has sort of passed them by.
Yeah, the empirical evidence suggests that, there's still 9 unemployed construction workers for every job opening in that industry. That's an industry that was hit hard by the housing crisis, by the Great Recession. If 5 years on, you're an unemployed construction worker, you're just an unemployed worker. It's time to get retraining. Easier said than done. So that's not a solution that can be resolved through monetary policy. That's something that may be through fiscal policy. So rather than cash benefits, job training, apprenticeships, low-cost loans to retrain, there are some structural factors that are going to make that difficult, age, family components, et cetera, but not a solution for monetary policy in this domain, no.
Does either of you think this is strictly a political issue and not really a meaningful economic issue?
I do.
You do.
I would agree. I mean, I think the net impact of this on the economy is going to be fairly trivial. We're talking about $6.4 billion in a $15 trillion economy. So it's mainly people on each side of the aisle trying to score their political points for the perspective that appeals to their particular constituents.
Agreed.
Okay. All right. Jeffrey, Myron, Jeff Hall, thanks for joining us with your insights.
Thank you.